Jones, Slayton, Kirk, they were all superb daily fantasy plays a week ago. We get into today's DFS picks. We call it chalk, value, and punt. So as always, start us up, Jeff.
And we got to give a shout out to Adam Shine for last week. Darius Slayton, he called that one right there. This week, I'm calling Miles Sanders against the Patriots. Yes, against the Patriots. There's a great opportunity here. Miles Sanders is very cheap with Darren Sproles on injured reserve, Jordan Howard banged up, Jay Ajayi in-house. You're going to save a lot of money here, and he's going to get touches regardless of the game script. I like this play.
So, Jeff, let's dive into this one. What are you watching for on the Panther side? Let's go there first.
Well, McCaffrey, the lone game he struggled this season was in that game of week 2 against this matchup. Tampa is pretty good against the run, surprisingly enough. They've been a pleasant surprise there. So the question is, does he rebound here in this matchup? Also, 27.2 touches per game. That is entirely too many touches. He's great, but he's going to wear down if we don't see that number reduce.
Let's start on the Green Bay side of things. Adams out. What happens now?
Yeah, and this is frustrating because Adams finally puts up some decent numbers, but I expect a lot of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. If you're desperate, maybe throw a dart at Geronimo Allison. We also have to talk about Jimmy Graham, though. This guy was only owned in 35% of leagues this week. Now, obviously had the big numbers last week, but I know a lot of people are hurting at tight end. If Jimmy Graham is somehow available, that just shouldn't be the case, but obviously he needs to be picked up. So let's get a little sneaky here if we want an added punt this week. How about Dallas Goedert? So you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Alshon Jeffrey's going to be out. We know Belichick is going to key Zach Ertz, but the Eagles run a ton of 12 personnel, which means Dallas Goedert's going to be on the field, and hey, if Ertz is bottled up, where do you think the ball is going to go to in the passing game? Dallas Goedert's really cheap, too, so we can get him in our lineups. And Jameis is one of these guys, for fantasy purposes, people just love to hate him. No matter what he does, it's not going to be good enough. You know, week 1, okay, it wasn't fun. Week 2 was in terrible weather, but he was actually pretty decent in that game. Fantasy numbers weren't that good. Then he goes out, puts the numbers up against the Giants. Oh, it was against the Giants. Then he goes and puts it up against the Rams. What else is he going to have to do here? He's clicking in this offense. He has these weapons. Chris Godwin is a budding star in this offense. And, I mean, hey, Jameis, he's going to be a quarterback 1 the rest of the way, whether you like it or not for fantasy. I like it.
Rodgers, Stafford, Brissett, all found matchups made in heaven a week ago, but who is the most compatible with your lineup this week? We're going to break down and break out the fantasy matchmaker. All our viewers under 30, you certainly get this. Swipe right if he's a keeper, swipe left if you can do better. Ah, yes. Up first, LaShawn McCoy.
So Shady, so far this season, not a lot of volume, but 5.4 yards per carry. The Packers giving up the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. And Matt Moore. I mean, they're going to have to cover him up somehow. So when it comes to LaShawn McCoy this week, I think we have a match. And I swipe this bad boy right.
I don't need a QB to stay ahead of the pack. I like it. All right, next up, Odell Beckham Jr., dream guy?
You know, ordinarily, yes, he's a dreamy wide receiver, but not necessarily all of this season. You know, he had the one good game, but also he's going to get the star treatment since he is such a dreamy wide receiver. Stephon Gilmore's shadow. Gilmore's allowing 44% catch rate, no touchdowns this season. Swipe it left. You know, Le'Veon Bell is banged up, but I'm not worried about him. I do think he is going to play. And hey, he's one of just 8 players in the league to top 20 touches per game. That volume is very good. So is this matchup for the Jets defense. The Giants turn the ball over, 2.4 turnovers a game since week 5, 4.2 sacks per game over that span as well.
Thanks a lot. We got a couple players who will power up your lineups this week. We're going to press start and get into our fantasy cheat codes. I absolutely love this. My favorite graphic. Where are we starting?
We're starting with Josh Jacobs, top 10 in the league in carries. And get this, he has as many runs of 15-plus as Christian McCaffrey. Oh, yeah, and he plays the Bengals today. Giddy up. We're going to pick on that matchup. Cheat code with Josh Jacobs.
Game screams of 150 kind of scrimmage yards maybe for Jacobs. How about Jared Cook as a potential cheat code?
You know what? A lot of people look at Arizona and the tight end matchup, but let's not look past the Bucs as well. They're the number 2 fantasy matchup for opposing tight ends. 77 yards per game. 0.07 touchdowns, so 0.7 touchdowns, so almost a touchdown a game to the position. There's a lot of upside with Jared Cook.
The volume is starting to get there for Cook, too. Yeah. 10 targets last week. And then finally, you know I like him. You loved him at the beginning of the year as well. You said wait on him. Devin Singletary, we waited.
We waited. Now, we got the big week. Then last week, a lot of people are saying, hey, what happened? Well, This week is going to make us forget about that. Up against Miami, second most scrimmage yards per game to opposing running backs. We know you can run on them. I expect to see a lot of Singletary today. Cheat code, get him in your lineup.